So this whole thing started right after we went viral on TikTok. What happened was people kept asking for songs, they wanted to see certain videos, and one of the most common requests we got was All of the Lights by Kanye. And I wasn't super familiar with the song, so I went and gave it a listen like I do all the songs that people request, and thought this is perfect. But if we're gonna make All of the Lights, we need to do it with all of the lights. And so I kind of started putting ideas together and determined there was 4 key things that needed to go down. One is we needed the proper drones and camera equipment. Thankfully, my little brother had a drone, as did his friend. My brother had shot the blinding lights video that we had done, and so they were willing to come and shoot this, so that was by far the easiest part. The second step was we needed to find a place to shoot. We needed a space that could fit a ton of cars, but also had decent lighting. And so I drove probably 100 miles all over the area. Even the night before we shot, I still wasn't 100% sure I wanted to shoot where we had tentatively planned.
All right, shoot location 461. We have been all over trying to find a decent place to shoot. Some of them are illegal, or we won't get shut down. Some of them are good, but look at this ugly building there right here.
Because we had been given permission to use this big parking lot by Splash Summit Water Park, but the issue was it was right next to houses, and our light beams were going to be going across a public road, which means if we were blinding cars that were driving by, that wasn't safe, and we could get shut down for that. But we just couldn't find anything that we thought was going to be better, and I'm really thankful to Splash Summit for letting us use their space, because it ended up being the perfect spot. So that was a stressor in and of itself, and we had our fingers crossed, but we also needed a ton of cars to come show up. And so I had put out a thing on Instagram looking for people and sent out a couple of texts, and people were kind of willing, but I think I got 1 response on Instagram. It wasn't very reassuring. And so the day before the shoot, I woke up and I was like, okay, I could just cancel the whole thing. Like, I have like 7 people who are planning on coming. And I was like, no, I'm gonna make this happen. So I got on my phone and I got on Facebook, and I just started messaging people. And I messaged people for almost 8 hours. But by the end of the day, I was like, okay, we have enough cars that we could probably make it happen tomorrow. So the night before the shoot, we just finished looking at places, and I had left the minivan that my parents have at my parents' house. And I had packed the generator, the ladders, the RockBand drum sets we were gonna use. I packed it all into my parents' car. It was all there, ready to go, and my brother was gonna bring it the next morning. And then I went home and I went to bed. Woke up the next morning, excited for the shoot, but there was still a ton to get done because we hadn't even designed the light show yet. But I had numbers solidified by like 8 a.m. It took me 8 hours. I sat there in the crook of my couch, put my laptop on one side and I'd work, and then I'd flip over the other side and kind of go back and forth. I designed and I designed all day. I was stressed, my computer was stressed.
I'm supposed to be the one that's panicking with such a tight deadline. Stop it!
The hardest thing about designing a light show is that none of this has ever been done before. And so I didn't know if any of it was actually gonna work out.
So here I have 21 cars in 3 rows, and I've been out. We've got a map of the shoot spot, measurements of where everything goes. So we've got music notation software, and it is 1:38, 1:39. We're shooting this in less than 12 hours, and the whole thing is not even written yet because we didn't have numbers until about 4 hours ago.
But thankfully, I got it done probably an hour and a half before the shoot was supposed to happen. Grabbed a quick bite to eat, and then went over to set up the shoot. The first thing that we had to do to prep was we needed to chalk out the parking lot. I've done a lot of painting football fields in my past and knew how to use the 3-4-5 triangle that you learn in geometry to make sure that all the lines were right angles, because we didn't want the cars to be one way and the next row to be over. And so we went out and measured and chalked off where all the cars needed to go. After we did that, it was time to get the cars into the right spots.
Please drive all the way that way and then come straight at it so we can ensure that we are facing our car from the right direction. The center of your car needs to be on where the little X is, and the very front of your car needs to be right on where the front of the X is. So there's a thing and a thing. You gotta be perfectly centered right up at the front of the car. Sound good? Daniel, help you line up. Thomas, go for it.
The next thing we needed to do was to make sure all the lights were working. So everyone's still in their cars, they had just pulled in, and we would have them turn on and turn off.
On. Is that Holly in the car? On. Holly, I'm not seeing anything from your car.
So we got all the cars in place. It actually happened really smoothly, and we were ready to shoot, except for there was one teeny problem.
Okay, brief update. We are totally ready to shoot. We only have one tiny problem, and that is that my little brother had one job, which was to show up with the van with all of the stuff I loaded for him, and he just got here with all of his friends, and they don't have any of the stuff. It's all the way back in Orem still.
So 30 minutes later, deep into when we should have already been shooting, the van shows up. They had all the equipment. We got the drones up in the air. We got the RockBand drum set set up in front, and everything was where it was needed to be so we could shoot. That was the cool part, is how we make all of this come together the way that my friend Beth had suggested.
When I saw Jared doing these headlight videos, it struck a chord with me. Struck a chord. And I thought, we put RockBand to the headlights. It's just like RockBand. It's just like Guitar Hero. The lights come towards you and they flash and you play them at the right time, you know? Except in reverse. I play, makes the lights flash. Stroke of genius.
I am Iron Man. Woo!
You know, I wouldn't necessarily call Kanye a rocker per se, but I'm sure he's dabbled before, so it counts.
After the shoot was over, I felt so much less stressed. But there was still a little bit that had to be done because we wanted to feature the car that my buddy Rob had, which is the red Lotus.
You may have not seen a car like this before because they're not super common. This one is called a Lotus Elise. Now Lotus is a British car manufacturer. They made this in very low volume. This particular one, a 2006 in Canyon Red, there's less than 50 of these that were ever made. And I don't know how many were in accidents, so there are very few that are left over these days. And it's rare to see them out on the road. A lot of people keep them in their garage, but I've wanted one of these, shopped all over the country, picked this one up in California, and just brought it back, and I love it so much.
And so we took him out and we just kind of did whatever we could to get some really, really cool shots.
Okay, good.
Look at that fresh slice of something.
The coolest thing about this whole shoot is that it's way, way bigger than just me. And it all started with someone else's idea to cover that song, you know, the TikTok followers. It started with my friends being supportive and people coming together and being willing and excited to make it happen, and that makes the biggest difference. and we all came together and made something that I hope you really enjoyed.
Is this working?
Yep, yeah, that's working
Right
fine.
here, okay. Okay, check, check. From the time I was 10 years old. Can we just keep going?
Let's just start that over.
Okay.